Hi everybody and welcome back to This Week in Magic Online Finance. I'm your host Chaz Andres, and as always, let's get started with the news. This week, the news was Pro Tour Rivals of Ixalan, our first modern Pro Tour in 2 years. And if you were worried that some rogue deck was going to go all Eldrazi Winter over the field, well, luckily you were wrong, because the field at the Pro Tour should look very familiar to those of you who play Modern a lot on MTGO. What was really nice about this Pro Tour was that it didn't even really seem to matter much what you played as long as you were really good at playing that deck. There were tons of established decks that did really well made day 2 in the top 8. Decks like 5-color Humans had 2 copies in the top 8. Things like Affinity and Tron and Storm, really good metagame choices. But also, you had decks like Black-Red Hollow One and Blue-Red Pyromancer and Obzon. Decks that we probably wouldn't have pegged as top 8 decks, making the top 8 on the strength of the pilots. So really what this Pro Tour proves is that you can kind of play whatever you want as long as you master it and get kind of lucky in your matchups. Now, even though diversity was the real story of this Pro Tour, I've been seeing some financial movement around cards from those exciting rogue decks that people want to build. Things like Hollow One. Cards from that deck are doing really well. Blackcleave Cliffs, Collective Brutality, Goblin Lore, really anything black and red doing well. A lot of things from the Pyromancer decks doing well. And also I think this Pro Tour has proven once and for all, Snapcaster makes Cryptic Command really good interaction that is really never going to go out of style in Modern. Also, Tarmogoyf, Liliana of the Veil, those style mid-range black and green cards coming back into fashion, and I think we're going to see some movement there over the next couple of weeks. Moving on to Masters 25, where we have 3 confirmed reprints for the next Masters set. We've got Jace the Mind Sculptor, Phyrexian Obliterator, and Azusa Lost But Seeking. Now these cards are a lot more relevant in paper Magic than online because of casual demand, but it's still worth figuring out what we should do with them right now. Let's tackle these cards one at a time, starting with Azusa Lost But Seeking. It's actually only a 3-ticket card in MTGO thanks to that promo copy, so if you need these, you probably already have them. I don't expect the price to be affected by the reprint one way or another, so don't worry about it for now. Next up we have Phyrexian Obliterator, which is going to drop in price. It's already dropped about a ticket and a half based on this announcement. It's going to keep falling, because it's mostly expensive because New Phyrexia is an older set, the card hasn't been reprinted, it was a mythic rare back then, and casual players really like it, but that's not the kind of card that holds value on MTGO. So expect it to continue to drop off. If you have these kicking around in your collection, get rid of them now. And then we have Jace the Mind Sculptor, which is actually only about a 10-ticket card on MTGO because it's banned in Modern, and the price has been ticking up since this announcement, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense until you remember that it's possible they could unban Jace in conjunction with this Masters 25 printing in order to make sure there's enough copies in the market and drive demand for their new set. So I was about 95% on board with this theory until the Pro Tour. And at this point we can say that Modern is the healthiest it's been in years, maybe ever, and unbanning a card like Jace, which has the potential to throw everything into disarray, just seems too risky at the moment. I think they might have been considering it, but look, Jace was going to show up in Masters 25 no matter what. It's one of the most iconic cards in the history of the game. So yeah, you can hold these for now. 10 tickets isn't much. It's probably only going to go down to 5 or 6 based on this reprint, and it could go up to 50 or 60 if it actually is unbanned in Modern. Just don't expect that announcement. Moving on to Gaining Ground, where in Standard, Rekindling Phoenix was the runaway winner of the week. It jumped 8 tickets from 17 up to 25. It's continuing to climb thanks to the fact that it sees play in a bunch of really good decks. Mono red aggro, red black aggro, green red monsters, and a couple of fringier brews. So at this point, we're talking about a mythic rare, a 3 or 4 of, in multiple top decks. Yeah, this one's gonna end up in the 25 to 30 ticket range for a while. Moving on to Modern, where tons of cards gained value this week thanks to the Pro Tour. Cards like Liliana of the Veil, Surgical Extraction, Cavern of Souls, all gaining 3 or 4 tickets thanks to their performance at the Pro Tour. But the runaway winner of the week was Collective Brutality, jumping 7 tickets from 20 up to 27 thanks to the role it played in seemingly all of the interesting decks coming out of the event. Now, I doubt it's going to remain over 25 for very long. Pro Tour hype is clearly playing a role here, but this is a long-term format staple. It's showing up in Traverse Shadow, in Black-Red Hollow One, in Lantern Control, in Mardu Pyromancer, in tons and tons of the hottest, most interesting decks in the format. So if you don't have these now, you may have to wait a bit to pick them up, but you definitely should make it a priority at some point. Moving on to the biggest loser, where in Standard, it was Vraska Relic Seeker, dropping 2 tickets from 9 down to 7. And that's because it hasn't really caught on, except in places like the sideboard of Black-Green Constrictor. And I think that it's going to probably hit the 5 ticket or so mark before leveling off and bottoming out. But at that price, it might actually be a buy. It's a very powerful card that's proven itself capable of taking on this metagame. The issue is it's just not very well positioned right now. Moving on to Scapeshift, our biggest loser in Modern. Dropped 3 tickets from 19 down to 16, and that's because Scapeshift had a miserable weekend in Spain. Of all the major decks that multiple pros brought, it had the worst day 2 conversion percentage, and I expect those cards to keep falling. Scapeshift, Valakut, Primeval Titan, I'm sort of fading all that stuff. The only one I kind of like right now is Through the Breach. Yeah, Titan Breach had a poor weekend, but Blue-Red Breach actually did pretty well. So I'm holding on to my Through the Breaches for now. The rest of the Scapeshift stuff, I'm selling. Now my sneak of the week this week is actually one of the most expensive and powerful cards in the entirety of MTGO. It's Wasteland. And after hitting a low of 37.38 back in November, it's up again through mostly slow and steady gains to about 50 tickets now. And this is a card that's been as high as 65 to 70 a couple of different times in 2017. It looks like it's heading back that way now. The one risk is a Masters 25 reprint would be kind of a blowout. But if Wasteland doesn't come back in Masters 25, expect those gains to continue. Now, as always, let's end the week by taking a look at the MTGO Traders sales data over the past 7 days. And this gives us a great idea of which cards are the most popular, selling the best on MTGO right now. Now, thanks primarily to the Modern Pro Tour, that top 5 has changed considerably from last Monday. All those Tribal Lords gone, the Vampires out of the top 10, Unclaimed Territory moved down from that number 1 slot to number 5, and in its place, the top 4 cards are all multi-format staples. Duress, Fatal Push, Lightning Bolt, and Negate. Now, once we get rid of all the commons and uncommons, the top 2 rares by sales volume this week were both standard legal. Vraska's Contempt and Jadelight Ranger. And something isn't adding up here. Vraska's Contempt gained a couple of tickets this week, which makes sense. Jadelight Ranger, though, did not, and that's despite it having one of the highest sales volumes last week as well. Something isn't adding up, and I expect we're going to see Jadelight Ranger surging in price at some point over the next couple of weeks. It's seeing a lot of play, it has a lot of demand, the price just hasn't kept up yet. Now, in terms of overall value sold, it's a good mix of both standard and modern. On one end, we've got the Scarab God, Chandra Torch of Defiance. On the other, we've got Liliana of the Veil, Scalding Tarn. These are cards that have been in the top 5 many times, or in the top 5 most weeks. We also, though, have Rekindling Phoenix, the hottest card of the week. And it's worth noting, at least when it comes to Jadelight Ranger, that Rekindling Phoenix was one of the most sold cards last week, even though it went down in price. Now it's surging in price, it's on this list. So I guess what I'm saying is buy Jadelight Rangers. That's all I got for you this week. Congratulations to all of you who did well at the Pro Tour over the weekend. Good luck to all of you competing over the next week, and I'll see you next Monday for another episode of This Week in Magic Online Finance.